You're taking a break just for you with us here on This Is Not Advice. I'm Roy Bahat, and I'm joined by my co-host Min Kim and my coworker. We're startup investors in the future of work.
And every day we answer a question of yours about work. Today is day 103, and instead of advice, we're going to break down some questions around focus, which has been the theme for this week. And so today is customers are asking us to build new features. Should we?
This is the biggest head fake out there. It feels so obvious, right? It's like the customer said we should make an option that lets you turn off this menu. Of course we should. And people wield it internally in a meeting. And this is, if we ever did a book with all the This Is Not Advice answers, there would be a whole part of the book whose title would be It Depends. And this is one of these, it depends. Like the goal, your goal as the person who is building things for customers or offering things to customers is to have judgment about what to build. And the things you build should satisfy your customers. And then the question is, if a customer is asking for something, will that satisfy them? And the answer is sometimes yes and sometimes no. And why is that? Well, first, it depends on how they're asking. Like, there's a huge difference between they're asking by saying, please build X because my boss would be really happy, versus they're asking by just taking some actions, trying to use the product in a certain way. Sometimes we call responding to that paving the cow path. So they create the cow path by using the product in a certain way, and then you systematize it. And that can be great. Although as an investor friend of mine reminded me, actually paving the cow paths is bad. Meaning like when cities pave cow paths, you get crappy urban planning. It's like, okay, good point. So I think it depends on how they ask. There's also it depends in what your business model is. So if you're a consultant building software for a client, well then sure, like if they ask for it, pressure test the ask a few times, but ultimately your job is literally to build what they want. And so, but in a standard kind of call it product or service driven attempt to find something scalable, the real way I think about it is their request is data. That data tells you something about what they think they want. Maybe they're right about what they want, but the customer's not always right because none of us knows our own minds. And so it's just data. And if that data makes you think, oh, I know how to give them this thing that I believe they're telling me they really need, then you'll avoid falling into the thing of, the old Henry Ford thing of if I gave my customers what they wanted, I would have given them a faster horse, oftentimes repeated by Steve Jobs. So now it's a Henry Ford, Steve Jobs quote, I guess, I don't know. And you'll have the creative insight that is applying your judgment and knowledge about the problem. Their request expressed explicitly or implicitly through their action that gives you data, and then make something that is absolutely special because it's your judgment on what they need. That's kind of how I think about that. It depends. It sounds like you've been giving some thought to innovative ways different companies are doing this, though, which is more interesting than my opinion.
Well, no, as in like you're talking about the how and the judgment. I think there's also before that the like who's asking. And we at the beginning of the week we were talking about like if I have multiple customer segments, should I focus on one? And I think deciding who you want, whose feature requests you want to prioritize is also a judgment choice that you have.
Well, whom are you building this?
Right. And I think, I don't know, there's been a couple of, I think, early stage companies that have a lot of great like user feedback coming in. And one way that they have like reflected it back onto their users is to say, hey, we make this public. Like we have a whole Trello board type thing that we've made public with all of the things that you want. And then you can see like where it stacks up on the priority list. And it's like a way to build in public too.
Yeah, there's services like, I don't know if people are really using user voice anymore that kind of productize that. And the effect that I think that has is also, it raises a really good point, which is it isn't just about what product or service you build. It's also about how the customer feels about the way you've handled their request. So your handling of their request, whether it's one of a million people making a bug request on some big consumer service, or it's your enterprise customer who pays you millions of dollars a year, that is part of their feeling of the value that you deliver to them. So it is not just about what you say, it is also about the tone of voice while you hold their hand.
Maya Angelou quote.
Is it?
Not about what you do, but how you make them feel.
Oh, how you make them feel. I love that. Yeah. It's not the words you say, it's the music you play. Many ways to understand the same concept.
standing on the shoulders of giants for all of this not advice. Remember, we're trying not to tell you how to live your life, but to give our perspectives on how you might want to pave your own path, your own cow path. And so if you have questions you want us to answer, reply to us here. And
in the nerdiest thing ever, we made pave your own cow path t-shirts if anybody wants them. But Roy and Min here again from Bloomberg Beta. We will be back tomorrow, continuing to talk about focus. To be continued.
Sounds good. To be continued.